Training hard and doing enough volume is what hypertrophy science is really all about. I mean, just look at all the hypertrophy studies on training volume alone and compare that to all the hypertrophy studies on the optimal bench angle for pec growth. So I'm going to go a little deeper on these two topics, training hard and doing enough volume. When it comes to training hard, this is what the science shows. The latest meta-analysis took 15 studies, pulled them together, and compared the muscle growth from groups going to failure versus groups not going to failure. And this graph shows their overall findings. As you can see, as you get closer and closer to failure, you do get more muscle growth. But there's a point where too much failure training can cause recovery issues. I think as long as you're getting 1 to 3 reps shy of failure, you're good. But the problem is, if you always leave 3 reps in the tank, you might accidentally be leaving 5 or 6 reps in the tank without realizing it. That underexertion will cost you gains. So I like to play it a little safe and get a little closer to failure than I probably need to. I usually leave 1 or 2 reps in the tank on most sets and then push my last set all the way to failure, assuming it's an exercise I can fail safely on. How hard you push is your training quality. How many sets you do is your training quantity. You need both quality and quantity for maximum gains. So for maximum gains, how many sets should you do? Well, in the research, this is called training volume, and it's the number of hard sets you do per muscle per week. For example, if you do 5 sets for your chest per week, you do low volume training. If you do 10 sets for your chest per week, you do moderate volume training. And if you do 20 plus sets for your chest per week, you do high volume training. I'd call 30 plus sets per muscle per week ultra high volume training. And luckily, we now understand the relationship between volume and muscle growth so much better than ever before. A brand new training volume meta-analysis was just published a few weeks ago with a ton of super impressive data analysis. Across 35 studies, they found that doing more volume did, in fact, cause more muscle growth. And that was true all the way up to 42 sets per muscle per week. That's an insanely high, borderline impractically high level of volume, and the gains are diminishing. But it's nonetheless true that the more work you do, the better gains you get, at least in the short term. And that's the crucial caveat with this research. It's still unclear how these different volumes play out over the long term. That's because most of these studies only last 6 to 10 weeks. So for 6 to 10 weeks or so, yeah, doing high volume causes more gains. But we don't know for sure if that's true over time. For that reason, I think the volume sweet spot is still in this range for most people, 8 to 20 sets per muscle per week.